Welcome to part 5 of the X5 build. In the previous episode, we got the car started. And then we got the smoking sorted out. We fixed the smoking, and then we had the air leak in the previous episode. So in this episode, we tackle fixing the air leak. So this is what you can expect to see in this episode.
I take out the intercooler pipe. I remove another pipe. We look at the 4x4 issue.
And now for my next number, I'd like to return.
Looking at the transfer case, intake Milo for a drive.
So previously we heard this air leak, and it seemed to be coming more from the bottom of the intercooler pipe, the one leading from the turbo to the intercooler, but there's also a slight leak on the opposite side. So the first thing is just to get the car up in jack stands, and I usually use 2 jack stands just for safety, and I even leave the jack itself there as well. And here you can see underneath the car, so this is the intercoolers here. First thing you should do is just take out the top covers. We've become quite efficient at that now. And there's a sensor which I'll show later on. You have to remove it on the top first. It's attached to the charge pipe, and this is what I'm tackling right now. So at the same time, while in the top, you still have to remove the circlip holding the intercooler pipe, the charge pipe, to the intake manifold. So I just take some time just to remove that. It's the first time I'm doing it, so again, it was a bit challenging, but it's a simple, you pull up on the latch and the intake should just slide out after that. Now we're getting back underneath the car, and we're going to tackle the one side. So here we can see where the leak was coming from. This pipe had completely popped off. The circuit was still intact, but I think one side is not attached well, so with the car boosting well, it just popped off. So now we're going to start with removing that completely, and once you've taken off this whole pipe, the plan is just to clean it up and change the O-rings. So here you can see once you remove the bottom one, let's loosen the top. So just out of curiosity, I wonder how many other guys have had the same issue. I don't know if it's a common fault in these cars, the N57s. I know with the N54, the petrol ones, usually either it pops off completely, the whole pipe, the plastic breaks off, but it doesn't usually pop off on the sides. So that's the sensor I was mentioning earlier, I circled in red. And circlips at the bottom on either end, they have a circlip. So this is the circlip I'm talking about. This is on the top end of the charge pipe. And this is the whole pipe that we've removed, and we can see all that oil and grime, and the old O-rings are still there. Next is to tackle the opposite side. So this is a rubber pipe, usually gets bent out of shape while you're pushing it in. And you can see this pipe has seen some better days. So this is the same pipe, we just cleaned it up, realigned all the metal rings, and we also removed all the O-rings on the inside, just to make sure we have a nice seal. Now these O-rings are bought from BMW directly, and it's plus minus 250 Rand also, but it's less than 300 Rand, but it is each one of them. So now we're getting back underneath the car and trying to reinsert, let's get a better view. So here you can see I've put it back, and if you look clearly, there's no longer that metal part showing. It's all seated quite well, and I made sure that the circlip was inserted on both edges. There's 2 edges on either side around 9 and 3 o'clock, and those have to clip into place to hold the pipe in.
So just to look at it from another angle, you can see here in that corner, I'll circle it in red there, that on this end as well, so this is more the 9 o'clock side, it actually is seated quite well. That's where it initially starts popping off, and then that's why it previously failed. Here you can, if you listen to the engine, there's no longer that loud air leak, despite me not having put all the intake pipes in. it's a lot quieter now. But the real test will be to take the car out on the road and see, once it's boosting, if there's any further leaks. But for now it seems it's quiet. So next we tackle these two faults, the transfer box and DSC transfer case malfunction. This is related to the 4x4 system, so you'll see this in the instrument cluster, these errors lighting up, and on the iDrive it will say that DSC and xDrive malfunction, safe to drive. So I did the cheap fix first, trying to see if I can fix it with Ista. So once the Ista program is loaded, there is a setting that you can calibrate the transfer case. So you go into the vehicle management and you go into the service functions, and then you go into the powertrain, and then there are settings there that relate to the iDrive system, the xDrive system. So you've got three options. There's a VTG calibration, which I tried, but that still failed, and then you can try the other ones to reset the adaptations, which I'll show later on. But I tried all of these, and without success. It still had that error. So these tests are not available on the system right now because I actually haven't plugged the car in directly. I'm just showing this to you guys retrospectively because I did this before and it didn't work out for me. So I still had the error on the dash afterwards. So I went underneath the car afterwards. So I just went to look for any oil leaks or anything that I could see that's obvious. So this is the transfer case here, and here's another view of it. This is your oil pan for the gearbox. That's where you'll do an oil change there, or flush, or top up. So here's another view of it. It's connected to the xDrive shaft, and as you can see, this is where the xDrive is. So it's connected to quite a lot of things, and it's difficult to get to without tools. So I decided that this is not a job I want to do myself, and that I'd get a professional to do this. So I went out to Ricardo. Shout out to him for helping me out with this. He said that the gearbox mounts were worn out, and there were a lot of other mechanical parts that were worn out. So just an oil change or flush wouldn't do it. And there was also some electronic faults that needed to be addressed with the fuse at the fuse box. So he had removed, I believe he removed the chain, and he also removed some of these plates you can see here. Those are all replaced, and after that it was all working well. And he did notice that it was slipping, the clutch was slipping when you accelerated, so he suggested just topping out the oil for the gearbox. I used Toptec 1800, and just to do that to see if it'll actually hold the gears better, and as you can see, it's holding gears a lot better. Also, you can see there's no transfer, no 4x4 error. Each time I work on the car, my dog is always there, so I decided to take him for a drive. His first drive in the X5. That evening, I went out to visit a friend, and disaster struck.